Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister is urging caution on Iran today at the United Nations. Minister John Baird addressed the General Assembly this morning. In his speech, Baird expressed Canada's skepticism towards Iran's new tone on nuclear talks. He also used this venue to honor victims of terrorism, such as the 2 Canadians killed in the recent Kenya Mall attacks. Our Jessica Murphy has been tracking the Canadian delegation at the UN General Assembly. She is in our Ottawa bureau today with the very latest details. So, Jessica, Baird had some words of caution for the UN. What exactly did he say?
Well, really, it was words of caution both on, as you noted, Sneha, Iran and on Syria. We've seen a very different tone that those two countries are bringing to the UN if you compare, say, last year. A lot has happened in the interim since, and Iran coming with a diplomatic charm offensive to the UN, saying they're ready and willing to engage, for example, with the international community on their nuclear program. Syria, still a bit of a strong tone, nonetheless, allowing inspectors in, saying they are ready to remove and have their chemical weapons destroyed. So a very different message that those two countries are bringing. Baird warning, look, these are still just words. We have yet to see any deeds. Here's Baird speaking a little bit on Iran.
Ladies and gentlemen, dialogue is important, yes. But our dialogue must be a prelude to action. And action must mean achieving results. Action must mean making a difference. Take the recent statements coming from the regime in Iran. Some observers see encouraging signs, but sound bites do not remove threats to global security.
Now, this is also a very different tone from what Baird brought last year when he spoke at the UN General Assembly, where he was highly critical of the UN as well as of Syria and Iran, but specifically focusing on the UN last year for its failure to act, for example, on the Syrian issue. And this time, Baird actually bringing in some compliments, saying, look, credit is due where credit is due, for example, on the UN World Food Program when it came to feeding Syrian refugees, Sneha.
And I understand, Jessica, Baird also had a message for some of the critics back home. How did he fire back on that?
Well, Canada has come under fire for one, Prime Minister Stephen Harper allowing Baird to speak in his stead at the UN General debate that takes part during this annual assembly of 193 member nations. Baird saying, look, we're here to get work done. It doesn't really matter who, for example, has a seat at the Security Council, who doesn't, who's essentially speaking at this podium. What matters is again, the work being done at the UN. And he really focused on some of what Canada is doing there. Its work, for example, with the United Nations on maternal and child health. Prime Minister Stephen Harper was there on last Wednesday working on that file. Baird also working there on ending the practice of forced marriage for children and so on. So he really said, look, we're focusing on things here at the UN that do have results and not necessarily on the bureaucracy of it or what some of what our critics want to see back home, Sneha.
All right. Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome.
That is Jessica Murphy reporting in our Ottawa bureau. Now, Israel's Prime Minister is also expressing deep concern over the U.S. thawing relations with Iran. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is meeting with President Obama today at the White House. Netanyahu believes Iran's new conciliatory tone is just a smokescreen. U.S. officials say Iran's openness to talk is an encouraging step. For the first time in 3 decades, the U.S. is engaging in direct discussions with Iran over its nuclear program. The Israeli PM, though, believes Iran is playing games. He says he will set the record straight in his speech to the UN General Assembly on Tuesday. Now, this is the topic of our daily web poll today. President Obama and newly elected Iranian President Hassan Rouhani spoke by phone Friday in the first direct talks between Iranian and U.S. presidents in 3 decades. Do you believe Rouhani is a more moderate Iranian leader? You can log on to sunnewsnetwork.ca to cast your vote.